Maria, I didn't see her join. Thank you, Maria. Hi, Joanna. Good. Okay, I'm going to call to order the Thursday, December 9th meeting of the Town of Nantucket's Finance Committee. This meeting is being recorded, and I would like to remind you that everything is being said and recorded. So, members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use their full names for Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. The town reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who doesn't use a full name or acts inappropriately. As a preliminary matter, I am Denise Cronau, Chair of the Finance Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative, and I will start in the order I see you. So, Peter Schaefer.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Kowacki.
Aye.
Stephen Morey.
Aye.
Jill Veith.
Aye.
And Joanna Quick. Joanna Roche. Thank you. And staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. And I will start with Maria.
Here.
Thank you. Terry.
Here.
Brian.
In attendance.
Libby.
Present.
Rick.
Here.
John Giorgio.
I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon. This open meeting of the Finance Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comments. For this meeting, the Finance Committee is convening by video conference via the Zoom app posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude the remarks, I will ask the Finance Committee if they have any comments or questions or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. And if members want to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through me, the chair. And for items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those of the members that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So may I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
thank you. And by roll call, Peter Schaefer,
Aye.
Joanna, Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Thank you. I will open the floor for general public comment, not related to the citizen warrant articles, which is coming up on the agenda as item number 6. So is there any general public comments? Seeing none, I will close the general public comment section of the meeting. Thank you. May I get an approval of the meeting minutes from September 13th?
So made.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Peter Schaefer,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Thank you very much. And now it's the public hearing on citizen warrant articles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go call them one by one, and then anyone who'd like to speak to them, please hit the little raise hand button, and then I will call on you to speak. And then after that, I will invite the Finance Committee to then ask any questions they may have of the article as it's been presented. Okay, so As you might have guessed, for the Finance Committee members, I actually did go through the analysis of the citizen warrant articles. There are 30 of them, of which 20 have to appear before someone else before they come to us. So I will call them out, but please understand that most of them are going somewhere else. So the first one is Article A, zoning map change R20 to CTEC and/or CN, Old South Road. This has to go to planning before it comes to us. Article B, rescind vote under Article 77 of the 2018 annual town meeting as to so much of the article that pertains to the taking of 10 Surfside Road and to return the land to the care, custody, and control of the Nantucket School Committee to be held for school purposes. Is there anyone on the call that would like to speak to this? I see no hands raised. Okay. And on that one, John, you raised several procedural issues and the article is not in proper legal form. So did you want to just speak to that briefly before I move on to the next one?
Yes, thank you, Denise. So this is, as I read this, it's an attempt to rescind a prior vote of town meeting that transferred the custody of this land from the school committee to the select board. And at that time, I had indicated that one of the necessary steps would also be for the school committee to declare that land surplus. And once they do that, I'm not sure they've actually done that yet, but once they do that, then this article is what I call self-effectuating, meaning the land is transferred by operation of law. And once that happens, it's no longer possible to rescind the prior vote. This article would, under those circumstances, would require, again, the same process, only in reverse, a declaration by the select board. The land is no longer needed for the purpose for which it's held. And a 2/3 vote of town meeting would be required.
Thank you, John. You know, as we did last year, I will invite the article sponsors to come and speak to us on, you know, a specific date, give them some options, and then they can come and speak to it. So if anyone on the Finance Committee would like to ask questions of John now, that's great. And we will obviously have another opportunity to talk about this at a future meeting in January or February. And does anyone have a question for John? Otherwise, I will move on to C, which is to direct the select board to allow at least 14 days between the annual town meeting and the subsequent election. And this is also Mr. McGrady. I don't see him on the call. Okay. D, Bruce Mandel, general bylaw amendment, single-use plastics, alcohol beverages container, and E, also Mr. Mandel, general bylaw amendment, single-use plastics, tobacco filters. Bruce and I did email prior to this meeting. He told me he wasn't going to be able to attend. We will find a date in January. And John, there was also some issues with these two articles as written, correct?
That's correct, Denise. They're really drafting errors, I believe. And I think in both articles, they could be corrected pretty easily through a motion if the Finance Committee wants to support these, or Mr. Mandel could make his own motion if the Finance Committee does not support them. And it would be subject to a scope determination by the moderator, of course, but I think if Sarah has any questions about that, I can certainly talk to her. But they would essentially add some additional types of water bottles to the ban, meaning it's now written as defined products, but that isn't really defined. So we'd have to specify which water bottles in the definition section would be banned. And then the other one is adding plastic tobacco filters. And plastic tobacco filters to the list of banned plastic items.
Thank you, John. Okay, Article F, home rule petition prohibiting fertilizer. Is there anyone here that wants to speak to that. I don't see, Jill?
I thought Michael Mazzarelli was on. Did he hop off?
No, I see his name. He raised his hand.
Okay, Michael, yep, no, I can see you now, Michael. Would you like to unmute and give us your thoughts on that article?
You need to unmute.
I don't, can I unmute him? I can't unmute him. So Maria, can you unmute him? Or Michael, can you unmute yourself? You're
You
still
had it
muted.
for a second, Mike, and then you lost it. Still muted. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can, thank you, Michael.
Hi there, Michael Mizzarelli. I'm the owner, part owner of J&M Landscape Services on Island, and I'm also the chairman of the Fertilizer Advisory Board. I just wanted to speak to the article. The Fertilizer Advisory Board has done a lot of work in the past 10 years, putting in place a licensure program and common sense fertilizer bylaw on Island. And there's this typically prohibiting things historically does not do well, and it would be very much a challenge for the town. And I feel that it would be taking us backwards for all the work we've done in the past 10 years. So I don't want to take up a lot of your time on it. And I know there'll be other opportunities to speak about it later. But if anybody had any questions regarding what the Fertilizer Advisory Board does, I could answer that, or that's all I really have for right now.
Does anybody have, Joanna?
I just have a question about John Giorgio's notes. It says that, you know, that this happened in 2012 and the general court did not act on the previous petition. What does that mean?
Nantucket has passed any number of home rule petitions, and then that special act is submitted. And for whatever reason, the general court does not enact the law. And so you often will see on warrants reauthorization of home rule petitions, and that's
Right.
because, and so that's essentially what this
What this
does.
Okay.
It's a really, although it's a little bit different than the 2012 home rule petition, it essentially reauthorizes a ban on fertilizers. So if it passes, it would have to go to the legislature. And I'm not going to comment on whether it is likely the legislature will enact such a ban, because, this is a pretty controversial issue. And if I may, Denise, provide
Please,
a little
John.
bit of further explanation.
Please.
So the town of Nantucket in 2012, the Board of Health enacted a set of fertilizer regulations. They became effective on June 1st of 2013. And those are actually more restrictive than the state fertilizer regulations. And that was allowed. Those regulations are enforceable. So if the town wanted to enact more stringent regulations now, there are two options. One would be this kind of a home rule petition. The other would be a adoption of a comprehensive plan by the Nantucket Planning and Economic and Development Commission, which included a recommendation for more stringent fertilizer regulations. And if that were made, then either the Board of Health could adopt further regulations or town meeting could adopt a bylaw. But at this point, those are the only two options that are available to the town to enact more stringent fertilizer regulations.
Thank you, John. Michael, what I can do is we will be posting in our future agendas which articles we're going to talk about. I invite the sponsors to come and speak to FinCom. We're going to be doing it on Zoom. I have your letter in my file right here, and I can make sure if you would send, I have your email because you emailed it to me. So I will make sure that I remember to also invite you to come back and speak at the time. But the best way to do it is obviously to check our agendas to see which ones are up for discussion, just in case I forget. So I'll do my best, and if not, just check the FinCom schedule and see which ones are up for discussion that night. And Chris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be interested to know a little bit more about the Fertilizer Advisory Board, briefly right now, and the makeup of that group and how it interfaces with Board of Health or any other part of the town.
Thank you, Chris. Michael, please.
So the Fertilizer Advisory Board also includes Roberto Santa Maria and Jeff Carlson from Natural Resources Department, other community members, and we meet to the Article 68, which formed the best management practices, is really a living document. We go through that from time to time. We made the licensure program. We make adjustments to the regulation, and that would be the place to make any further adjustments to the fertilizer program. But we really knew at all times that it was going to be a living document as technologies got better and products changed. So that is where we meet, we discuss that, and implement any changes. And also Jeff Carlson's in charge of enforcement through the Nantucket Resources Department.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. So, Madam Chair, I'd be interested in hearing from Jeff or Roberto, probably Jeff, if we could invite him to that follow-up meeting.
Yep.
Thanks.
Well, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. We'll include Jeff as well when we have this on the agenda. Okay, thank you. Anything else on this one? If not, I will go over to, okay, thanks, Michael. Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
Article G is sewer district map change. So we'll wait for the sewer board to make the recommendation to the select board. Article H is Jeffrey Boom's home rule petition, amend the Historic District Commission enabling legislation to encourage the adoption of solar power and renewable energy systems. Is there anyone that wants to speak to this? I don't see any hands raised.
Sorry. Hi, Denise. It's
Hi, Hillary.
It's Hillary Rayport. I'm sorry. I hope it's okay if I didn't put my hand up and I just raised my physical hand. I wanted to make one comment about that. That's not my primary reason for being here tonight, but there is a provision for consideration of solar panels in the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40C, which governs historic districts statewide. And I just wondered, maybe Nantucket should consider that language. I don't know. It just seems that there is a model in the state, and we have over time tried to align our own special act with the state Massachusetts general law. So I know there'll be more hearings on this, and there'll be other times to speak, but I just wanted to raise that as something for this committee to think about or inquire about.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
John, any comments about that before we move on to the next one?
A home rule petition, if it's enacted, would supersede any general law to the contrary.
Okay.
So that's something to keep in mind. If the provisions, the existing general law provisions are not deemed by the town adequate to protect basically the ability to install solar panels, then the home rule petition would be the appropriate vehicle to do that.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you. Okay. All right. Article I, Teresa Williams, home rule petition, establish ombudsman to mediate disputes before the town of Nantucket. And John, back over to you. I think this article also has deficiencies.
Yeah, so, this article has come before town meeting in a variety of iterations. And I want to point out that despite a representation that was made at town meeting last year, I don't believe this has ever passed town meeting in any form. Last year, we had said that if the intent of this article was to create some kind of a complaint resolution process that would allow this ombudsman to undo or overrule town boards, it would absolutely require a charter amendment. And then depending upon exactly what's being proposed, it could even potentially require special legislation. So I think the petitioner this year put this in the form of a charter amendment, but it really isn't adequate for purpose. It's not ready to be voted on by town meeting because there's no substance as to exactly what the role of this ombudsman would be. And unless somebody is going to sit down and actually draft a charter amendment to present to the finance committee, I mean, I suppose you could pass this the way it's written, but it's not going to get you anywhere. Again, because there's no detail set forth. And I think that the legislature is likely to look at this and say, given the potential significant impacts on town boards and how they operate and their statutory authority, that this was not an adequate home rule petition for the legislature to act on. I mean,
Thank
that's
you.
my opinion.
Thank you. Okay, no, okay. J, Cliff Williams, appropriate $300,000 to purchase a shredder for solid waste recycle and MRF. Does anybody know what MRF is?
That's the Materials Recovery Facility,
Thank you. Thank you, John.
otherwise known as a MRF.
What do you know? Thank you. Article K, Julie Bunting, zoning map change, R20 to CTEC and/or CN Old South Road. Again, goes to planning first. Article L, Dorothy Stover, bylaw amendment, gender equality on beaches. Is there anyone here that wants to speak to that? No hands raised, okay. Article M, Campbell Sutton, general bylaw amendment, town wharf and waterways prohibited activities extend until October 31st, the requirement that dinghies be removed from town property. And John, I think this also had some issues.
It does. As on further investigation, I determined that this provision is actually a regulation of the town. It's not a general bylaw. So town meeting does not have the authority to amend a regulation. That can only be done by the select board.
Okay, thank you. Article N, Hillary Rayport, Home Rule Petition, amend special act regarding the makeup of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission. And Hillary, I see you're here with your hand raised, so I will turn it over to you. You're muted, Hillary. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Gets me every time.
That's okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I know you're going to have other hearings on this next year, but I just, as this was a public hearing, I just wanted to take the opportunity to be here to acquaint you with the changes that I'm proposing and to invite you to ask questions that I might answer as you continue to develop your thoughts on this citizens warrant article.
Thank you. So why don't you go ahead and give us a
Okay.
highlight of your changes and why you believe they're necessary? And then I
Sure.
will ask my FinCom members if they have any questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I'm proposing some changes to the special act creating the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission. The purpose of my changes are to increase this important commission's accountability to the voters, transparency through reporting, and to make some clarifications about their responsibility. Probably the biggest change that everyone will be most curious about is regarding my suggested changes to the composition. And if you don't mind if I share my screen, I'd like to just show you a table that summarizes that.
That's fine.
I think it makes it really easy if you can just see it. So you should see a table here. This is the voter's guide. And you can see that currently the commission has 11 members. It consists of all 5 members of the planning board. And the change suggested is that it's 3 members of the planning board. So that continues to constitute a quorum of the planning board. It currently has 1 member of the county commissioners and 1 member of the Conservation Commission, each appointed by that commission, and that is unchanged. It currently has 1 member of the Housing Authority, and it's suggested that that become, in fact, 1 member of the Affordable Housing Trust. And then it has 3 at-large members appointed by the NP and EDC. So the commission appoints its own members, and the change suggests that it has 3 people that are elected by the voters in a general election. Cultural resources are currently not represented on the commission. 1 member of the Historical Commission is included should this be adopted. And the director of the Department of Public Works was always included on this commission. The commission petitioned the general court to remove the DPW seat, and that was accomplished in 2019. And this petition would reinstate that person. So basically by having the planning board go from all 5 members to 3, you make room for a member representing cultural resources and a member, the director of the DPW, who is obviously very steeped in the issues of transportation and other aspects of the town in terms of long range planning, but we keep the membership at 11 members. It's a big commission, so I felt that was important. The second change is to require an annual report. So this commission does not make an annual report included in the town annual report. You know, it may report at time to time at its discretion, but it has no obligation to do that. So this would make an obligation that this commission would report to the voters. And then the last change is in its mission. So currently the mission of the NP and EDC, as stated, is in order to plan for the orderly and coordinated development and protection of the physical, social, and economic resources of the island of Nantucket. And as you can see in the documentation and in the warrant, I've broadened that to provide for balanced economic growth, preservation of natural resources, open space, provision of transportation, providing for fair and affordable housing. There's more verbiage in there, but you basically get the idea. So those are the proposed changes. I think they're incremental. I hope they're not controversial. They do give more direct accountability to the voters by having 3 at-large members elected by the voters. It still privileges and honors the important link to the planning board by retaining a quorum of the planning board on the commission. I think it'll really help the voters. And I think that the mission of this commission, which is long range planning, is of critical importance to the town, and that the voters in the town will be well served by these changes. So I hope to hear your questions. I know we'll have plenty of time to do more research on this, and I hope to earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. Finance Committee. Any hands raised with questions at this time? Joanna?
So this is maybe a question for John. You know, there's a lot of home rule petitions, and how does this impact how they're received? right? I mean, I know from being on this committee for a while now that we have homeroom petitions all the time, but when we are looking at this in the context of either having to reaffirm them, which we've had to do, we also, and this being a new one, how does it or does it actually impact the chances of it happening? Meaning, in this case, if we vote to support this, what are the chances of it actually being enacted?
So, thank you, Joanna. I think I would respond by saying Nantucket has an extraordinary number of home rule petitions each year, at least in my experience. And it's not that any one of them does not have merit, but I think it's like anything else. The more petitions you send to your state rep and your senator, I think it's inevitable that they get somewhat diluted, just because it's really the legislature and Dylan and
Julian,
I'm drawing a blank now, but Julian, thank you. Have always, in my experience, been very responsive to the town's needs. It's just when you have so many, it clogs up the calendar. And I think it probably reduces the likelihood of getting them all passed. Nantucket home rule petition fatigue.
Other
I'd like to comment, if I may. Just to
Hillary, let me go through the rest of the finance committee first, please, and see if there's any other questions. Then you can comment all at once on all
Okay,
of them.
sure, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you. Jill? Jill?
Okay, I just want to understand the math a little better, Hillary, because I saw your sheet, which was very, very helpful. And it sounds like, so you want to take 2 planning board members off this new makeup of the committee, is that right?
Yes, so instead of all 5, it moves to 3, which,
Okay. So you're going to take away 2 people who already been elected, right? You want to take away the housing authority person who's been elected already too, because AHTF people are appointed. I think if I've got that right, forgive me if I'm messing that up.
If I may, I don't think that's quite accurate.
Okay.
So, and Hillary can correct me if I'm wrong, but currently all 5 members of the planning board are what we would call ex officio members of the commission. They serve by virtue of being an elected planning board member.
Yeah, so she's
what
just
this
changing
would
the
do-
makeup of what each of those seats is, right?
Yeah, it would reduce the number of ex officio members to 3, but they're not all currently elected. I guess that's the point.
Yeah, no one's right.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
she's
they're
trying
not,
to put in 3 people to be elected directly to it, right?
Correct.
But then
Yes,
everyone else won't be elected to it. But some
They're
of them
not
are elected to their jobs outside of the ex
Right.
officio status, is that right?
they're not currently no one is elected to this commission.
Right. So you want to have 3 people elected to it,
Yes,
right? And then you would still have, it looks to me like 3 people who are elected to positions in the town as ex officio. Right? And then you have the historical commission appointment. Would that be considered ex officio?
so John can explain what ex officio means, because I don't want to misunderstand it, but
Yeah,
it
since
would
they're
be
not
the-
elected
not-
either, I didn't know if that's how
the
they.
power.
So I work closely with Hillary on drafting this.
Uh-huh.
And you're an ex officio member if you are automatically the member of another committee by virtue of the office you hold. So currently, all 5 planning board members are automatically members of this commission.
Mhm.
Now, what is being proposed here is, for example, with respect to the Nantucket Historical Commission, I believe the intent here is that that member would be appointed by the current historical commission members. So they're not technically ex officio. They would have to decide on which of their members would be a member of this planning commission. And also, if you look at the detail in Hillary's petition, we had some challenging transition issues to write in, but I think we've done that. So it explains, so what's going to happen if this passes? You know, the planning board is going to appoint 3 of its members, not all 5 will serve. And that will be up to the planning board to decide who to appoint. Out of their 5 members, they will appoint 3. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think I understand that. I think the way I look at it, and it's just how I think, Hillary, that I'm trying to think of who's already been elected and are we trying to add more people to be elected to do a job that we've kind of implied they would do in the job we elected them to do, in my ineloquent way of saying that. So you elect somebody to the planning board and then they sit on other boards. And so that's what I was just trying to figure out was, and I guess my larger question looking at that is, what are you unhappy with about what the planning board's doing to suggest you want to replace them?
Hillary, go ahead. You can respond to Jill on that one directly.
Okay. So I am holding my comment about Dylan Fernandez and the home rule till the end, but you'd like me to respond to Jill?
Yeah, might as well
Okay,
at this point. Yeah.
Fine. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question, Jill. So as I understand it, you have 2 questions, or you have an observation that some people are elected and they are, expected to serve on other boards. And that, certainly in the case with the planning board, there's going to be less than 2, and why should there be less than 2? So this commission is responsible for long-range planning. And long-range has typically been defined as, 20, 30, even 50 years in some cases. So it's really, really long-term planning. And I think, the planning board deals with the daily, day in, day out, near-term issues. They're very different roles. And I think there's great benefit in opening up the 2 seats to add in some of these other planning skills that are important to the commission. And I don't think that everybody who serves on the planning board is necessarily interested in long range planning. Some people, they ran for planning board. Some people are more interested in the near term, more talented about the near term issues. And I do think it's important that it is still a quorum of the planning board. So it is significant. But that was the thought process.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the response, and I'm just trying to understand, that board a little better, because I'm not that familiar with it. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Jill. Peter?
I guess this is for John. Do we have any other commissions that have a mixture of elected and appointed people on them?
The CPC.
Thank you. Erica always saves me. It's incredible.
She saves us all, John.
Yeah, and I certainly know other examples in other municipalities where there's a combination of elected and appointed, and that's certainly something you can do if you want.
However, it would diminish the power of the people that were elected.
How would it diminish the power of the people who were elected?
Because
Those have to go through me.
Oh,
They have to
sorry.
go through the chair.
Sorry, through the chair, if I
Thanks.
may. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Peter.
I just think it's diluted. When you go from 5 or whatever, 5 to 3, you're diluting the elected people on the board. Are they elected now or are they appointed?
They're all appointed.
Right, okay, so you're changing the whole concept. Bigger question probably is, we could find 3 people to run. That's a challenge in this town. But I just think it diminishes the value to the people that are getting elected. It's like being elected to the select board and then having them put 3 other people on the select board in addition to the people 4 that were elected, or 5 that were elected. It just doesn't sound kosher to me.
If I may,
Hillary-
Madam Chair.
Yeah,
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Peter.
Um,
Hillary?
So currently there are 3 appointed at-large members on this commission. And they are appointed by the commission. And it is, I think, worth noting that there are no other commissions on Nantucket that appoints its own members. So the main thrust was, not to diminish the power of other people, but to increase the accountability to the voters. At one point, I thought and I considered, well, all of our boards have positions that are elected or that are appointed. When we have appointed boards, the appointing authority is the select board in this town. But this commission is different. It's independent. It's a regional planning authority. It operates at the county level. It's very different from the other committees and commissions that we have. That's why this is a home rule petition, because it's a regional planning authority. So I just bring that up to highlight how different this commission is. And that I do think it's an anomaly to have a commission where they appoint their own members, and that it does remove it from the voters a little bit more than some of the other modes of appointment that we have.
I mean, but strictly speaking, Hillary, you are taking 2 members of the planning board who were elected and using those seats to elect people directly to the MPE or to the Nantucket Planning Commission. So you're actually only adding an additional elected person. Yes.
No.
Yes, the 5 planning board people have been elected.
So the 5 planning, maybe I'm not understanding your question correctly, but the 5 planning board members have been elected to the planning board.
Correct.
Not to
So
the
they have
planning
been elected.
commission.
Yes, but they've been
Which
elected.
I think is different. Yes, they have been elected. And then
So-
there are 3, there are 3, I know you understand this, 3 appointed people who are now going to be elected. But they will importantly have to run specifically to be on the planning commission and make the case to the voters to be on the planning commission, express specifically an interest in long range planning. So yes.
And by that logic, I would extend that maybe everyone on the planning commission should be elected directly to the planning commission. Everyone, not just so. I mean, anyway, any other comments from the finance committee before I ask Penny? Penny's patiently had her little electronic hand up here. Okay.
All right, great.
Penny.
Thank you. Yeah, Penny Dye. I have a couple of points that I think can be helpful to this discussion. I served for a few years as the vice chair of the Massachusetts Association of Regional Planning Agencies. Most of the seats in the regional planning agencies and commissions were appointed. I currently serve as the chair of the Nantucket Housing Authority and as the Housing Authority representative to the Affordable Housing Trust. I'd like to know through you, Madam Chair, what is the rationale in eliminating the Housing Authority seat and changing it to an Affordable Housing Trust seat? And secondarily, it would have been helpful to have some direct discussion about this before now. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Hillary, would you like to answer Penny's questions, please?
Yes, to you, Madam Chair.
Please.
So Penny, I don't disagree with you about your comment about direct discussion. I did ask, I did speak with Tucker Holland. In fact, before I brought this as a citizens warrant article, I brought it to the Government Study Committee back in April. I was suggested to do that after discussions with our town manager, because it's really a government organization issue. And I hadn't at that point planned any changes to the Housing Authority representative. And Tucker made the point that, most of the long range planning around housing is done through the Affordable Housing Trust. So I don't want to put this on Tucker. It's my article. I made the decisions in the article, but I did think about his suggestion, and I did read the housing production plan and start listening to recordings of the Housing Authority, the Affordable Housing Trust meetings. And I also did try to find out more about the Housing Authority. And when you go to the website of the town website of the Housing Authority, I couldn't find minutes. I couldn't attend meetings. I'm not saying this to be critical. I'm just saying that there was not much information. I'm also not saying that I couldn't have gotten that information. I did write to Maureen Coleman and ask, there's not even a description of the Housing Authority on the website. What does it do? And she gave me the phone number of the coordinator. And I didn't call that person. I was interested in speaking with you, Penny, but I don't know you, so I didn't actually speak with you. So I guess I don't have a tremendous amount of conviction around this issue about the Housing Authority versus the Affordable Housing Trust. Again, this article is being brought forward. It belongs to the people. People might suggest changes or improvements or differences. When I brought this article, really what I wanted to do was have a discussion about long-range planning on Nantucket and the role of long-range planning. And if I achieve nothing else through this process than having a community discussion about the importance of long-range planning, I think I will have achieved what I wanted to achieve. But as regards the Affordable Housing Trust versus the Housing Authority, I did request with Tucker that I attend one of the meetings and present this. I think it's the second meeting in January that I requested to present. And I do hope that I'm invited to be on the agenda and that we can talk about this. I hope that answers your question.
Actually, it doesn't.
Really?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Denise, Madam Chair, may I
Yeah.
ask respond? The Housing Authority is
Penny.
not a town agency.
Mhm.
Okay, it's an independent agency, easily accessible. There's an office. We have an executive director, staffed, responsive. So not a town
And
agency.
again, I should have called your executive director, and I'm happy to have more discussions and even entertain a change of regarding that one
Yeah,
point.
so I guess, again, through you, Madam Chair, but that doesn't really explain the rationale that somebody thought it was a good idea, but a good idea for what reasons?
So I can answer, if Madam Chair, if I may I
Please,
go
Hillary.
ahead?
Yeah,
Thank you.
go ahead.
So Penny, this commission, as you well know from your experience, is about long-range planning. And long-range planning for the provision of affordable housing is certainly within the scope of what this commission would work on. So this commission to date, aside from the 3 at-large members, is comprised of other members in the town of Nantucket that are also thinking about and concerned with long-range planning. And for whatever reason, it seems to me, and it's supportable by the work product. I'm noting that Brooke Moore is also on the call, and I'd invite her to comment if she wants to contribute to this discussion from the person. Actually, she just went away, so maybe she's not here anymore. That a lot of the planning and the work is being done on Nantucket by the Affordable Housing Trust. And that was my rationale. And I'm also happy to, it sounds like you don't agree with me, in which case I'm really looking forward to discussing this with the Affordable Housing Trust and seeing if it was maybe not such a great suggestion that change be made.
I think it would be prudent, Madam Chair, through you, to discuss it with the Housing Authority, who will certainly be impacted if this passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you. Thank you, Hillary. Jill, you had your hand up.
Well, just a thought I was putting out about the Housing Authority for Hillary and replacing that with someone on AHTF. What strikes me is that if it's a long-term planning, what we're going through now with affordable housing, yes, is kind of making up for some long-term planning that maybe wasn't done, however you want to look at that. But the Housing Authority is getting the state funds. And that's probably thinking along the lines for this this board is, if it's looking at long-term planning, it's probably getting a lot of state funds as well and what's coming down the pike. So it's probably good for that person to be coordinating, as you look at a regional and state level.
Thank you, Jill. Anybody else from Finance Committee? Hillary, I had a question. So effectively the Nantucket Planning Commission, that is easier to say than the NPDEC, whatever it is, the initials, the alphabet soup that they are now, is frankly the planners on behalf of the select board. So what have your conversations with the select board members been in terms of the changes of this? And are they fully in support of your proposed changes?
So it's very important to understand that the Planning Commission does not plan on behalf of the select board. They plan on behalf of the voters of Nantucket, and they're separately organized from the select board, and they're actually county, they operate more at the county level and the state level. Now, that being said, it's not that I'm not interested in feedback from the select board, but another thing to understand is that it's the county commissioners that have a right of appointment for this planning commission, not the select board. And of course, they're one and the same, so it's semantic. But from the perspective of the state, and Jill is absolutely correct when she says that this is about state funding, this is a funding vehicle. So that being said, I have on the petition that I submitted over 60 signatures. It does include a signature from a member of the planning board. It includes Matt Fee, select board member's signature. And it also includes a signature of Bill Klein, who was our planning director for 17 years. I have emailed all of the members of the select board. I have also had some back and forth with Christy, who is the select board or the county commissioner's appointee to the commission. We haven't actually found a time to speak yet. But so this is a long way of saying, I do not know if every member of the select board supports my article. And I would welcome the opportunity to have further dialogue with all members of the select board, but I have emailed all of them. I have asked for feedback all along the line. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Hang on a second, Jill and Stephen, I'll get to you in a second. Do you want to go ahead and answer about Dylan Fernandez, and then I'll go ahead and call on Jill and Stephen in the order that they've raised their hands.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hillary.
So through you, Madam Chair, Joanna, it is a concern. Of course, there are a lot of home rule petitions, and it was a concern of mine as well. I did speak with Dylan Fernandez, Representative Fernandez, about this. I've spoken with him over, several months. And he said, if the town of Nantucket voters, whatever you send up to us, we will support. This is not particularly complicated. We could probably pass it through informal session. So while I do think, I don't know, but I would think frivolous home rule petitions would be irritating to the legislature. I certainly do. I don't think this is frivolous. It's really, really important. And I do know that it does have the support of Representative Fernandez, and he is expecting to see it if it's passed.
Thank you, Hillary. Jill, and then Stephen. Jill's hand up was first, and then Chris.
Well, I guess following on Denise's apt question, we're not quite sure where the select board stands on it, but do we know where the planning board stands on it yet?
Hillary, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. So I do know that the number 2 signer on this is Fritz McClure. I don't know where the other members of the planning board stand on it. you know, some people are, I mean, obviously, I can't speak for Penny. Penny is not on the call anymore. She made a point that the Housing Authority would probably, you know, that I should go speak to them, that they would probably not be happy because they would no longer be represented. So I can extrapolate that the planning board probably likes this commission the way it is. I have written to the current planning commission several times. I have made public comment at their meeting because they did not put it on their agenda. So I made a public comment. I have written to the planning board asking, you know, because I have not so far been on their list of articles that they wanted to discuss, asking to discuss it with them. And I hope that I will have the opportunity to discuss it with them.
Thank you, Hillary. Stephen? Thank you, Jill.
Yeah. Hi, Hillary. Can you summarize for me or for all of us again what it is that is the problem we're solving here? I've heard you reference transparency. What's the heart of the issue that you're trying to get at with this article?
Yeah. Well, the heart of the issue is to encourage more long-range planning and more effective long-range planning. But this does move incrementally. You know, I think that it's necessary to move incrementally, and I think it's necessary to put your faith in the voters and in the people who are affected by this planning commission to step up and run for office. So planning, long-range planning is a continuous process. It should be happening all the time, and it should be looking out, you know, 20, 30 years. And we have currently major planning documents. We have an open space plan. We have a master plan. We have a municipal harbor plan. All of these plans are 12 years out of date. Our municipal harbor plan is expired and operating under an extension. You heard earlier from John Giorgio about how if there is an interest in regulating, I'm not going to say banning, I'm just going to say regulating fertilizer, which there obviously is because town meeting passed a home rule petition in, was it 2012? And the Land Council and the Fertilizer Steering Committee have done tremendous work to create guidelines, which are you know, adhered to, it's supposed to be adhered to more or less on a volunteer basis. But as you heard from John Giorgio, this commission is also specially empowered along with the Martha's Vineyard Commission and the Cape Cod Commission to put in place a plan recommending the limit of fertilizer, which would enable us to actually pass more specific bylaws. So I just think there isn't as much long-range planning happening on Nantucket in a continuous fashion as there used to be. And I think we're experiencing the results of that. And I think that by having these 3 elected members, you have more accountability to the voters, and you really give the voters more of a direct voice in long-range planning. And I think by having a requirement to report annually, you improve transparency. And, you know, the language about the mission of this commission is nearly 50 years old. It hasn't been updated in 50 years. This commission was created by a special act in 1973. So having, you know, more specific language about planning for balanced growth, for affordable housing in the commission, it just makes things a little bit more specific. And I think, you know, most of the people that I talk to, they don't understand what this commission does. Its importance has, and awareness of this commission and its role has really faded. This is the commission that put in place the land bank. So I hope that answers your question, Stephen.
It doesn't actually. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. So first of all, to suppose that the visibility or the understanding of what this commission does has faded would be to suppose that there was a lot of awareness about it before, and I'm not sure that that's the case. But in any event, to talk about this commission as if it exists at the county level, as if that's different from the town level, ignores that this body, this finance committee, also operates at the county level, and the select board does the same thing. They're not separate and apart from one another. This town is a county, so I'm not sure what that distinction is. Can you explain that?
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. So this committee, I believe, is appointed by the select board. That's correct, right?
The finance committee, yes.
So you serve at the pleasure of the select board. The planning commission is not under the authority of the select board.
Okay. That's the distinction that you're drawing.
It is an important distinction.
Yeah. How does that relate to the fact that, I mean, you've referred a couple of times to this commission operating at the county level?
Well, it's because this commission, and John Giorgio, I'm also going to ask you, if I may, Madam Chair, to make any comment that you feel would be helpful regarding the planning commissions, because I know you work with other ones too. But so there's 13 regional planning agencies in Massachusetts, and they're all attached to counties. And in Barnstable County, they have the Cape Cod Commission. In in Dukes County, they have the Martha's Vineyard Commission, and we have the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission. So it just so happens that, we're a county with one town. But from the state perspective, we're kind of in there with all of the other commissions that operate at county levels with multiple towns.
Right. But we're asked now to evaluate a proposal that would replace the town planners with people from other boards and commissions, and now some directly elected officers. Yes, no, we are replacing elected town planners with people from other boards and commissions, like the Historical Commission gets a seat, and then one housing agency over another. So there must have been some thought. I know you've been working on this for more than 18 months. So there was significant thought put into what you determined was the appropriate makeup. So we have, on the one hand, elected planners at the town level who are operating here at the county level. And in your estimation, that's inappropriate. And the makeup would be better served if we had a different housing group and the Historical Commission represented. Can you explain those changes?
I will attempt to shed some more light on my thinking. I do want to stress that I've brought forward this warrant article through the process that we have of town meeting, which allows ideas to bubble up from the electorate, and they belong to the voters, and voters can make changes, and you can also recommend changes. So that being said, I did, when I considered the structure of our planning commission, look at other planning commissions. There aren't any other planning commissions that have planning board members ex officio. On Martha's Vineyard, it's made up of, I have this in my FAQ, but if you want to check the details, because I'm doing this from memory, but it's made up of appointees by the select boards of all the different towns. And then there's also, I think it's 6 elected members. Anyway, there's a certain number of elected members. On the Cape, it's also folks appointed by different towns. So I did try to take a view that was considering, what other models are out there, but also I didn't want to have this commission grow and grow and grow. I mean, the Department of Public Works director has been on this commission since it was formed in 1973. and that person was removed. I think the article was brought in 2016 or 2017, and that person was removed in 2019. I heard different reasons for it. I heard it was hard to get a quorum. I didn't want to have the committee grow and grow, but I did feel, and I actually did notice that if the director of public works is not on the commission, and if anybody is not a full member of a commission, there's much less consistent attendance. And that did happen on Nantucket. So adding back in the Department of Public Works would add a seat, and the commission would get big, quite big again. Regarding the Historical Commission is the preservation planning organization. It is engaged in long-term planning around cultural resources, and the entire island of Nantucket is a National Historic Landmark. It just seems to me that how can you be doing planning 20, 30 years out on a National Historic Landmark when you have this model of including the Conservation Commission and the county commissioners and housing, and not also consider cultural resources. So that was my thinking there. And I was preferencing not having the commission get very, very big, but I do want to emphasize that it still contains a quorum of the planning board.
Okay. Last question.
Hang on a second, Stephen. I just want to say to Chris, I saw you raise your hand, so I'll come to you after Stephen.
That's okay. It was covered, Madam Chair. So go ahead.
Okay, never mind. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Stephen.
Okay. Yeah, my last question was about the feedback that you received from the Town Government Study Committee. So you brought it there. This article wasn't sponsored by the Government Study Committee. What was the feedback?
So the feedback was encouraging. Everyone felt it was worth discussing. Ultimately, they decided, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say everyone. One member of the Government Study Committee felt it was completely inappropriate for the Government Study Committee to be discussing this matter. The other members felt it was worth discussing. And ultimately, their feedback was that to include a recommendation that all committees and commissions review their charters and review their missions. And that regarding making any specific recommendation about the NP and EDC was of interest, but they had other things that they had to complete. It was kind of late in the day for them in their charter, and that they had other things they were working on. I will say there is, they did decide to talk to the chairs of the planning board and the planning commission, and they did get a response in writing, which I'm happy to share with you.
Okay, so the Government Study Committee got formal responses from those bodies. You didn't get them, but they have weighed in on this idea already.
And I mean, I have them, obviously, so I'm happy to share it with you.
Okay, Madam Chair, maybe you would request that.
If you would please email them to us, thanks. Can you
Sure.
just quickly say what they were? I mean, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Well, so when I took this to the Government Study Committee, I didn't take any particular recommendation. I didn't take a bylaw or any recommendation for changes. What I took was a compendium of observations about the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission versus the Vineyard and versus the Cape, and asked for a discussion and commentary. So the feedback was really about my compendium of information, what I said, what I didn't say, things like that. And I'm happy to share with you.
Okay, so the feedback was effectively neutral. They weren't against it. They weren't for it. They weren't anything. They were just commenting on your data. I'm just trying to get an understanding. If someone writes me a letter, do I think it's a good letter or a bad letter?
Okay.
Make it that simple for me, please.
Yes. Yeah. No, I would say they were negative. they didn't think that my observations were valid. They didn't think it was informative to look at other planning commissions. They felt that, you know, what the Cape Cod Commission does or what the Martha's Vineyard Commission does is not relevant. And yeah, I don't really think they wanted it brought up. That's my impression,
Okay,
Madam Chair. So I really would like to share the document with
please.
you so that you can make your own conclusions.
Thank you. And one last question from my side, and then we'll set you free. Thank you for being here and answering. Oh, Jill had one more question. Okay, Jill, you go ahead, then I'll ask my question.
Sorry, I just wanted to make two comments and respond if the chair wants to let you respond or not. But one really valid point I think you made is that the NPEDC, the land bank law, which is a state law, by the way, that germinated from this group. And so I feel like that particular argument is saying that what we have is maybe quite good. And the other comment I had, because for me, the planning board that's a very technical board. And so the people that run for that seat, they're telling the voters in a very real way, like, hey, I want to know all about not just zoning right now, but the history of zoning on Nantucket, which is very, very complicated and goes back. I mean, it's not like anywhere else in the world, actually. So it's hard for me, and I'm just sharing my feedback to you as you go through this process and trying to generate support for it. But it's hard for me to say I want to take people who have less technical knowledge and put them on a board that does require that technical knowledge. You know, one thing about the DPW director not being on the board, they're really handling a lot of the day-to-day. I think what your concerns might be is about infrastructure and sewer and water, and where's that going and where's development going. You don't really need the DPW director to be on the board to know about that, because again, the voters approve those things. And so the planning board members, they know what's coming down the pipe, literally. So those are just my comments I wanted to make as you're going through the process. I know we're months away and you're trying to get support for what you're doing, but that's really what was on my mind as I listened to you, and I hope you find that helpful.
Thank you, Jill. And Hillary, my last question. Considering all the discussion we've had tonight, and I'm sure we're going to have lots more discussion, constructive discussion as we go forward on this topic. And, you know, thank you for your passion at looking at what's best for Nantucket now and 50 years from now. Listening to all of this, I would have thought an interesting citizens warrant article would have been add a historic commission member to the NPEDC and kind of call it a day with that. And then once that person's in that organization, whoever that happens to be, they could then say it was you, say, well, how about we publish an annual report? How about we do this? How about we do that? So from rowing from inside the boat, I mean, it just strikes me of all the things you want to get done. Is it easy to push the boat from the outside as you're swimming alongside it, or is it easier to row from inside the boat? So just an observation on our conversation tonight. That's what struck me as I was listening to everyone's comments.
May I make one comment, Madam
Please.
Chair? So it sounds to me like you're saying, Hillary, if you had just stopped with the home rule petition to add the historical commission, that would make sense because you'd achieve representation for cultural resources planning on this planning commission. And then perhaps it could be you, because, you know, as you all know, I serve on the historical commission, and at this point I'm chair of the historical commission. I mean, I'm passionate about protecting and planning for historic resources on Nantucket, but this is really about so much more than just historic resources. It's really about quality of life, sustainability, environmental protection. Even though I can't speak on everything, you guys would be so tired of hearing from me if I told you everything I thought about everything. I am equally passionate about the fact that our harbor is dying. I would not physically be capable of doing what you suggested. I think the importance of accountability and transparency for this planning commission as a pathway to get more effective long-range planning to happen is so important. But also my term is up this year. So, who knows if the select board will want to reappoint me, up next year. They might not reappoint me. I mean, this is not about me being on this planning commission. If these changes are adopted, I would probably run for a seat, actually, a 3-year seat on this commission. But I do appreciate that it's easier to make change from within. And that is in fact why this is an incremental change. Add a few elected members, make a gradual change that is really kind of in the spirit of how Nantucket tends to run commissions, and then put it, put our faith in the people, this reformed board, on the heels of a conversation about long-range planning, and hope that change comes from that.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. So that what we'll do is, as you know, we invite people to come back, and we also post it on the agenda for which articles we're going to discuss on which night. So then that way we get the best, discussion and representation. One thing that strikes me, and I would offer, kind of based on what Stephen had asked you, if you could be more clear about the problem you're solving, particularly in respect of why you strongly believe that there's no long-range planning happening now. I'm sure you have specific examples you could speak to, because that would help us understand why, what we're helping to fix with this, if you will, or to improve. Because the more concrete we can understand, this should have happened, and because it didn't, X happened. Right, that's always helpful for us as a committee to consider in your future attendance with us. So that would be great. And thank you. Thank you for being
I will
here.
do that.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Hillary, and you're welcome to join, because as you know, Finance Committee is riveting TV, but we also understand you might want to step off. So thank you.
Take care.
You too. Thanks a lot. Okay, Article O, Anduiz zoning bylaw amendment, pools, hot tubs, spas, definitions, reduction in square footage of surface area for hot tub spas, goes to planning board first. Article P, Anduiz zoning bylaw amendment, table of use chart prohibiting hot tub spas in historic district, again, goes to planning board first. And now we begin the Linda Williams series. The next one, okay, I'll just, Article Q, Linda Williams, zoning map change, R20 to R10L, Nobadir Way, planning. Article R, Linda Williams, zoning bylaw amendment, definitions in word usage apartments, waiver of density requirements by special permit, planning. Article S, Linda Williams, zoning bylaw amendment, swimming pool residential, reduce minimum square footage of lot from 7,500 to 6,000 square feet, planning. Article T, Linda Williams, zoning bylaw amendment, swimming pool residential, eliminate minimum lot size in VR district, planning. Article U, zoning bylaw amendment, allow storage containers by special permit in CMI, planning. Article V, Linda Williams, real estate acquisition, yard sale program, Proprietors Road, off Trip Road / South Shore Road, Ken Real Estate, the real estate committee rather. Article W, Linda Williams, real estate conveyance, the yard sale program, Proprietors Road, off Trip Road / South Shore Road. Article X, Linda Williams, real estate acquisition, yard sale program, 2 ways, Nobadir Way. Article Y, Linda Williams, real estate conveyance, yard sale program, 2 ways, Nobadir Way. Both of those have to go to the real estate committee. Article Z, Ken Bogrand, appropriation, fiscal year 23, community preservation committee. And then Ken will come speak to us when he does, when we get him scheduled. Article AA, Ken Bogrand, appropriation, community preservation committee for Affordable Housing Trust. Article BB, Ken Bogrand, fiscal year 22, community preservation committee budget transfers. Again, we'll have Ken in January come and speak to us about these topics. Article CC, Cliff Williams, sewer district map change, 44 Skyline Drive, sewer commission, or sewer board, I always get those mixed up. Article DD, Cliff Williams, zoning map change, Lug 2 to R5 or CN 44 Skyline Drive, again, planning. And Article EE, the last one, Tobias Glidden, zoning bylaw amendment, protective rights to short-term rentals, permits short-term rentals as a right of, whoops, primary residence that is an accessory use, requires a special permit for the short-term rental use in a dwelling that is not a primary residence upon showing that that use is accessory, prohibits all other short-term rental uses, and that goes to planning first. It's a zoning bylaw change. So that's I didn't give anyone a chance to put their hand up on all the things that were going to zoning or real estate first. Apologies for that, but until we get their recommendations, we usually don't have a discussion about them. So any further comments or questions about any of the ones that we've gone through tonight? No, I don't see any hands raised. Okay. So next item on the agenda. We've combined our items 6 and 7 together, public hearing and the discussion of citizen warrant articles. Item 8, committee reports. Are there any committee reports that need reporting? And if so, raise your hand. Jill, thank you.
Sorry, well, I don't know that I have so much report, but we've been meeting a lot on Capcom, so I just wanted to mention that. And then I think we all completed what our RORIs are, our rankings. So we're now getting into talking about specifically why we all ranked things the way we did, and if we can come to an agreement. And then there have been some new capital requests as well. So if Rick is still on, he can remind us how much money that was. But if not, anyway, the process is going to continue a little bit longer. So that's really about it.
Thank you, Jill. Joanna?
The CRC starts meeting next week. We've gotten all the packet of information, but meeting starts next week.
Okay, and you will have seen in the budget presentation, I'm sure, that the allocation for the CRC this year is $750,000.
Yes,
It's increased $100,000 over last year.
yes.
Joanna, you don't want to offer anything about the $900 million for coastal resiliency?
I could. Actually, it's a great point, Denise. I was wondering if the FinCom would like to invite either Vince Murphy or Mary Longacre to come and speak with us very briefly about the coastal resiliency plan. I would just like to offer that suggestion since it's complicated and very detailed and will likely affect a lot of the decisions that we make.
Thank you. I think that's a great suggestion, particularly as you see with 30 citizens warrant articles. I mean, if I add up the typical town ones that are coming through, we're about 64, maybe we'll peak at 70. I don't know. It depends on number of appropriation articles and things like that. But we're built in to have a heavy schedule, obviously, because of the prior year's experience. And I think we could find time for that. And I think that would be useful for us to have on our agenda. So thank you. And I will include that together with Maria on a future agenda. I'll reach out to Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to jump over to our next meeting is Monday, January 10th at 4 p.m. And then you can see the schedule, of course, on the town's website under Finance Committee schedule. Under other business, I am going to make the suggestion that we stay on Zoom through April because the state has allowed committees such as ours to meet on Zoom through April. And I think we get better participation personally using Zoom. And any comments or questions about that from the Finance Committee? Peter.
The little definition, better participation from the outside.
I know, not from the Finance Committee, but from other people. Yes, we get, if you think about our Finance Committee in person, we would get 1 or 2 people unless it was gas leaf blowers and we got 30. But, normally we didn't get many people physically coming to our finance committee meetings, whereas we get many people showing up on Zoom to discuss things. So I think that there's an advantage for us to be on Zoom. And no, finance committee's always participated perfectly in person or on Zoom. So I have that's no reflection on the committee's participation. Sorry if that wasn't clear.
I'm a pro in-person person, and I think we get more in person than we do on Zoom. But I'm not the chair.
We get more in person
Than we do on Zoom.
from each other, you mean?
Yes.
What does everyone else think about this?
I prefer to be able to do something else right up until the time of the meeting and then log off and do something else immediately after. The commute on Nantucket is killer. I can't stand it.
And any other thoughts on this? Okay, well, as you pointed out, Peter, every now and then, being the chair has some privileges, so I'm going to keep us on Zoom at least in the short term. And then, Erica's probably going to tell me I'm completely wrong and we have to be in person.
Hi, thank you for acknowledging my hand raised. I just wanted to say that I was actually going to be reaching out to all boards, committees, and commissions very soon about the potential of returning to in-person meetings, but with the ability to continue on Zoom until April 1st, I would love it if a lot of the boards, committees, and commissions who are not necessarily regulatory continue to meet by Zoom if they choose to. So I think that's a great idea.
Well,
And
we're going to do it just for Erica. That's
well, I had been going to some meetings about some online sessions about navigating hybrid meetings, and they have been talking about how before COVID, remote participation was pretty primarily focused on the boards, the public bodies, but since COVID and the amount of public participation that does happen, the state is really changing its focus to how to keep that public participation remotely, occurring. So I think that it's one of the positives that's come out of COVID, personally, having this ability.
Thank you, Erica. Okay,
Thanks.
so at least for January and February, we'll stay on Zoom. We can take a view in March, maybe as we wrap things up, that we might want to meet in person and try hybrid. And come April 1st, it's over. We have to be back in person. So John is signing off. Thank you, John, as always, much appreciated, and your counsel. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, and I'm going to get all sad, but I'm very sad about Judith Wegner. She and I had a interesting start in our collaboration. I'll just phrase it that way. And but at the end, we got to such a good point of being able to work together, even though we were coming from very different positions. And she did so much for Nantucket. And so I would like us to recognize as a board, or as I can't talk, but anyway, she was a special person and she did a lot for this town.
Can we make a motion to acknowledge the work of Judith Wegner formally in our minutes?
Sure, why not?
I second that.
By roll call, Stephen,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Jill,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Denise. Hi, thank you for that, Joanna. Excellent. And with that, before I make a motion to adjourn, because I always forget to do that, as we know. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your hard work of this year. It was a challenging year on several dimensions, not the least of which 112 articles to go through for town meeting outside all day. Maria, you've picked up you've grabbed the baton from Rick and ran with it. Thank you so much for making it a smooth and seamless transition for us. Brian and Libby and Terry, you just make our life easy to work together with you and hopefully support the town and support all of you and doing what we think is best for the town of Nantucket. And I very much appreciate working with all of you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Now may I have a motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Denise. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. May I second? There
Second.
we go. By roll call, Peter,
Aye.
Stephen. He's muted. We'll move it. Thank you. Jill,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Okay, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.